Before you pack the boxes and book the movers, watch this entire video because we're going to explain 7 big mistakes people make when moving to Colorado Springs.
And these are not the kind of mistakes that you want to make, and some of them can actually cost you a lot of money. So be sure to watch all the way to the end.
Welcome back to Living Local in Colorado Springs. As you know, I am Sean. This is Crystal. We are your real estate partners here for in and around the Colorado Springs area. We have helped tons of people move to the Colorado Springs area, but unfortunately, we have also helped several people move back to where they're from or a different location because they didn't have these insider tips on the big mistakes that people make when they move to Colorado Springs.
So we're going to tell you a little bit, maybe some stories, because we like to do that, and kind of help you avoid some of the most common mistakes that we see. And hopefully after the video, you'll be able to have kind of a different insight, have a little bit more helpful information. Always subscribe, contact us, DM us, text us, whatever you would like to do.
All the things. We're your go-to resource for anything and everything around the Colorado Springs area. But let's jump into these big mistakes that people are making when they're moving to Colorado Springs. All right, so the first big mistake that we see people making when they're moving to the Colorado Springs area is underestimating the altitude. We talked to tons of people from areas like Florida, Texas, and California, and there are several factors that people don't really think about when it comes to altitude, and one of them that will relate directly to me is going to be the physical fatigue. Even though I'm a native, Crystal's a native, when we go to places like Mexico, which we're going in just a couple weeks for our family vacation, when I come back and I go to the gym, it is a little bit different. I'm used to going on the treadmill or running on the beach. I come back to 6,000 feet of elevation and I'm exhausted. So if you're looking at moving to Colorado Springs, I would definitely recommend getting your boots on the ground if at all possible so that you can experience what that's like.
Well, and another thing, because I like a good cocktail, there's no denying that, but that is something different. I never really kind of realized the difference of what altitude will do while drinking.
It perfectly relates to Mexico.
Very, very true. But it's because of the altitude here in Colorado, I feel like you can just drink it. When you drink, it hits a lot differently. And when we go to places like Mexico, what we would normally drink is not what we would drink there at all.
Yeah, so that could be a good or bad thing,
right,
depending on how much you're drinking. But you just be prepared. When you come here, it's going to be a little bit different. So maybe go a little bit slower than you typically would if you go hard in the paint with your drinks or your happy hour or whatever it is. But that is something that does take a little bit of time to acclimate. And the other thing, as you can see me with my water all day, all night, it is so hard, I feel, to stay hydrated here in Colorado Springs. And I don't really necessarily know why, but I drink water constantly, and you guys probably can relate to this. Even though I'm drinking a ton of water, I don't necessarily feel hydrated. So, which can obviously affect a bunch of different things, but I always recommend if you're coming to the area, make sure that you're drinking tons and tons and tons of water. You will almost always see me with some sort of ice shaker or hydro flask or a gallon of water because I am constantly thirsty.
And if you're like me, someone who does not like water, but you have to drink a lot of water here. And that's another thing. Like I've never been a big water drinker. But I have tried so hard, which I think that I've done way better at drinking water. But
speaking of water, I'm spilling it everywhere.
A little tip is to put like fresh fruit in it or lemons. Like I love lemons. And as much as I like a fresh lemon, I just get like the lemon packets because then I could put those in my purse. I could put those anywhere and I can put them in when we go to a restaurant. I can put a lemon packet in there if they don't have fresh lemons. It allows you to be able to, if you're like me, not like Sean, but it allows you to be able to drink more water. And I have noticed a really big difference, especially with my skin, that obviously the more that you are hydrated, the better that your full health is going to be. So, and because of our altitude and it's drier, like it's just something that you're going to want to do.
Fun fact and funny story, when we first got together, I got her on the hydration train, and I would go buy a gallon. There's a gas station, previous gym industry, when we were still both in the gym industry. I would go buy a gallon because it was in the parking lot of the the gym was in the same parking lot as the gas station. It was like walking distance. So I would go buy a big gallon, and then we got her on these little gallon. I don't even know how big they were. They weren't a gallon. They were just miniature versions of mine. But then we did the math and determined how much water we were spending on these stupid jugs just because of the convenience, and we ex-nayed the jugs.
Yeah.
So now I stick to the ice shaker. That's my personal brand. No, they did not pay me, but you are more than welcome to sponsor. I love the ice shakers, and
they're one of the best.
Crystal likes the ice shakers too. She just doesn't carry them around with her as much as me.
No, I do not. I have to be forced to drink water.
All right, as your favorite real estate agents, number 2 on our list is not researching neighborhoods thoroughly. We would not be your favorite agents if we did not tell you about these horror stories that people have to share with us because they failed to do their research. Whether it is commute times or one of the worst case scenarios is you think you're in a certain school district and turns out you're actually not. But there are a lot of mishaps that happen when it comes to researching neighborhoods. HOAs is another one. Property taxes. There are so many things that if you do not use your favorite real estate experts in Colorado Springs, they can go wrong. So please, please, please be sure to research your neighborhoods thoroughly.
Well, and I think too, along those lines, it's when you do purchase a house, you're kind of committed. I mean, I would at least say a minimum of 2 years you should be committed. And so you can't change your neighborhood. I mean, you could if we sell it and then you buy something else, but it's one of those things to where it's like just with a little bit of research, it will, and we help you guys with all of that. So if you have questions about, hey, does this neighborhood have an HOA, or how many parks does it have, or how close is it to this and this and this, we can help you with all of that stuff. But that's probably one of the bigger mistakes, is that people don't look into that, and then they get there and they're like, wait a minute, I really needed it to be so-and-so here, or I really wanted it to be within walking distance so I can take my kids to the park, and there are no parks. So definitely reach out to us and we can be a resource for that.
Yeah, and a lot of our viewers actually reach out to us for that specific thing. One of our viewers actually reached out because, believe it or not, their proximity was very important to them, but their proximity to Lifetime, the gym that I actually go to, which is kind of how we hit it off, was super important to them. They wanted to be within 5 to 7 minutes of Lifetime, the facility, because of the gym, the pickleball. They were retirees, so they wanted a very close place to be able to go spend a lot of their time in both the morning and in the evenings. So if proximity to amenities is important to you, like she said, reach out to us. We're your go-to resource. You can always reach us at 719-238-1771. We're happy to explore whatever that looks like to you, but please, please, please research your neighborhoods thoroughly so you don't make that mistake that we have seen, unfortunately, several people make in the past.
Yep. And then the third one, you guys, this one, obviously we are local real estate agents, but this one just really upsets me. And it is people who think that you can buy a house without a local realtor. You can. Absolutely. Just like you can wake up in the morning and not brush your teeth.
Yep.
You can do that. Do we do that? No, we do not do that. Real estate agents in general, especially really good ones like Sean and I, we bring so much to the table, and there's so much stuff that you won't know about. And of course, we have to tell horror stories about this because it's near and dear to our heart, to where we see what happens when you don't. We've had clients, we have friends or family members.
Friends is the right way. We'll meet these people and then they tell us they're
after the fact, right? Because if they would have used us, that wouldn't have happened. But one of them just recently, they said that, they bought a new build home and they had no idea that they could ask for things to be fixed. They had no idea to even get an inspection because the builders they don't tell you to get an inspection. They had no idea about any incentives that they could have gotten. And when we heard this, we had literally just got our buyer about $50,000 in savings and so many incentives that it just broke my heart to pieces, because you can be represented, and it's just, there's so much that we do for you to help you get the best deal, get the best home, and make sure that you're taken care of, because we represent you. And if you don't have representation, you have nobody to help you with any of that, because the seller's not going to do it. They don't care, right? They want the most amount of money. They don't want you to have the best deal. Builders don't care. They work for the builder, right? So just that is one of my big things. Super passionate about it. But negotiations too. I mean, we just had a buyer just close on a house and we were able to get them so much. And at first, the listing agent was like, this is really what you want? Yes, this is what we want. And guess what? We got it. And so there's just so much stuff that we help you with as agents to make sure that you are getting the best representation, that you are getting the best deal, that you are getting everything that you need, and that you're informed with everything throughout the transaction.
Well, and on top of that too, like we have dozens and dozens of tradespeople. So if you move into a house and come to find out, well, first of all, you weren't represented. So let's say that you go through the process and it was totally fine. You're relocating here from out of state and now you want your floors redone, or you need an HVAC person or a roofer or whoever. Like, what are you going to do? Google it and hope that the top person or whatever is going to represent you and charge a fair price and do everything right by you? We know so many people in all the different trades that we can recommend to you. And same goes for like inspection items too. If something pops up on an inspection, we can help navigate that situation. Really we can get into that a little bit later, but there are so many different things. And then another thing that's super important too when you're buying a house sight unseen is the potential for like odors or things that you can't see, which I know one of our topics later is going to touch on that a little bit more too. So I don't want to dive too deep into it. But there are certain things that when you can't see the house, say you're out of state, that we can see because we're your local representation, and we would forewarn you of any of those things before you were to even get into the house.
Yep. So just like Sean was saying, choosing a home based on just online photos, as listing agents, we want to hire the best photographer to be able to showcase a house in its best way possible, right? Do you think if there's a big old hole in the wall that we're gonna showcase that? No. However, as your buyer's agents, especially if you're not here, we show you all of that. We will go in and out, and like Sean said, odors are probably the number one thing that we get. When we help out-of-state clients, they'll fall in love with the Zillow photos, right? And they'll be like, this is a dream home. This is what I want. And they'll be like, write an offer. And we don't write offers without us seeing it, because we feel so strongly at being able to help you and make sure that you have the best home that we want to walk it to make sure that there are no odors, that there's no crazy something that's not being shown. And odors is probably like the number one thing. Cat pee, cat urine, cigarettes.
Well, and I actually have two stories to go along with this, both very related to one another. We had a viewer that was in love with this house that just went live about 5 days ago at this point, and it was in Larkspur. So I drive to Larkspur, which, unfamiliar with the area, it's north of Colorado Springs, north of the Monument, and south of Castle Rock. It's like a little mountainous town.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Super gorgeous. But what they didn't know is that there's a train track right there. So not only was it like it was the nicest house in the neighborhood, which is a totally another conversation. Like, you don't necessarily want the nicest house in the entire neighborhood, but it was near train tracks. And then the other thing that you can't see in the listing photos, because they did a good job, is the trailer park basically surrounding it. The neighbors to the right had really broken down old vehicles, accumulations of trash. So not only was there going to be tons of noise, because trains will drive by
all the time,
7, 8, 9, 10 times a day, starting at 4 in the morning or even earlier, and as late as you can possibly imagine. So the sounds were going to be terrible, but also the sights. I mean, the house itself was very nice, but when you're driving through it on the only road in and out, the neighbors, it's just an eyesore. And then not only that, but the Renaissance Festival was literally a block away from this house as well. So when you drive into it and you see the other 4 or 5 for sale signs, there's probably an indication as to why, because the people are just trying to get away from the road noise and the unsightly things that you're going to see there. So please, please, please do not buy a home based off of the listing photos. That is a terrible idea and something that we, again, can help you with.
Yep. Well, and I think too that it's super big. And if you don't mind having all of that stuff around you, great. But what we want to do is just make sure that you know about it, right? Because we did just have buyers that wanted a particular area, and there was a train tracks literally right there. You heard it. You heard it inside, you heard it outside.
They heard it the day we showed them the house, and the day we had a notary come to meet them at the house to sign for closing, and they had the train. So both times, that was their warning. But they still loved it.
But they loved it, right? So we're not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. We're saying that we want to be fully transparent in your home purchase, which means that we don't want you just to buy it based off of online photos. And a lot of other things too is that when we walk it, we look for cracks in the wall, we look for damages, we look for like leaking faucets and stuff like that. So that
all
way,
red flags.
Yeah, that way we know what's going on, and that's why you just don't buy it. Just buy those lovely Zillow photos.
All right, number 5 on our list is actually assuming that Colorado Springs is just like Denver, which it can't be farther from the truth. It is only about an hour to an hour and a half away from Colorado Springs, but the housing market itself is totally different. The job market from Colorado Springs, what you'd probably find versus Denver, is totally different. The food scene in Denver, in my opinion, is probably more diverse.
Yeah,
they just have
for sure
options than you do.
Yeah, it's bigger. Yes.
Pro sports teams, like we have our Vibes and other small little semi-pro teams, but I mean, it's nothing like a Broncos game or a Nuggets game, the Avalanche game. The Rockies are terrible right now, but that's okay. It's just not that pro sports team environment. And it culturally is too, like, I just feel it's very different territorial Denver versus Colorado Springs. If you're into politics, I'm sure you can do your research and relate to whichever side of the coin you decide to fall on. But they are just two very different areas.
I agree. So I think another thing that we hear and see a lot with buyers that are out of state is that they're not used to basements, and so they're not familiar with what radon is. And radon basically, I mean, there's a scientific description of it or definition of it, but basically it's an odorless gas that you can't see, you can't smell or anything, but it does live, especially here in Colorado, it does live here, and it loves basements, especially closed off basements to where the air just is not flowing to get out of it.
Very detrimental to your health.
Yeah, it's really not healthy at all. And so what they the regulation is like 4 coins. It's not degrees. That's 4.
4?
Yeah. I don't know if it's like, I don't know what it is.
Then a couple of scientific little letters after.
Yeah, we're not scientists.
And more. That's all we need to look for on the inspection room.
Right. So, because you may have, like it may pop back like a 1 or a 2. That's normal, right? You can never get it completely out. But anything over 4 is something that you do need to be concerned in. And so we always recommend a mitigation system to basically what that does is it sucks the air out, pulls it out, and puts it outside. And so it's constantly just flowing that air. And, those systems range anywhere from like 12 to 1600, kind of depending on what your basement looks like and what they have to do to be able to do it. But that is huge. And a lot of people don't know about that. And so when we start talking to them, they're like, what the heck is radon and why would I need to get it tested? We do recommend it. We have an amazing inspection company and we pay for your inspection. So you get that like as a bonus when you work with us. And then the other thing would be our soils. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's something that a lot of people don't really pay attention to and or know a lot about with it.
Well, and 2 things, again, going back to some of our other topics, soils and radon, you can't see them in the listing photos, and you won't know about it if you go in unrepresented without a local agent. So with those being said, I think talking on the soils, we can discuss a little bit about what happens to the foundation of the house. Our soils here are super weird. We have a lot of fluctuation, a lot of movement. If you were to go into a new build community, don't be surprised if you see cracked driveways or walkways already, because that's just what happens. It's in established neighborhoods, it's in new neighborhoods. But when it becomes a problem is when it starts to affect your foundation. So if you are to get into a home, which actually we just got some buyers under contract on a home that did have some foundation issues, but when you know the local reputable companies that deal with foundations and how these things called piers are set up to actually stabilize and adjust the foundation over time, as long as you know what you're looking for, you can move into a home that has had previous foundation issues and go a lifetime without issues. Flip side of the coin, if the soils have settled and you go into a house with foundation problems that have not been necessarily looked at, and you then inherit those problems by purchasing the home without knowing about that, you could be in for tens of thousands of dollars in repairs and not even be able to resell the home if that was a huge red flag for you, which we've seen happen before. They found out about it after they closed and they tried to sell the home. Like, it was so far down the rabbit hole of issues that nobody even wanted to purchase the property. Well, we didn't have that problem representing them. We've just heard the horror stories.
Right. Well, and I'm going to find footage and we're going to put it up here of, we did an inspection report and it had so much settling and foundation issues. And this was an out-of-state buyer. They were coming from Texas and they would not have known. And that was one of those ones where they're like, I love it. This is a perfect one. Let's write an offer. We're like, we're going to go see it. And it was really far from us. It was like 2.5, 3 hours away. We made the drive, right? And we did video and we went down into, it was classified as a basement, but it was really more like a
sketchy.
It was probably one of the craziest basements areas that I've seen. But I'm going to find that picture and I'm going to put it up here because it was insane. It was being held up. The foundation was literally being held up by 2x4s.
Yeah, and you could just see the soils protruding, just like ready to just explode. And yeah, these are problems that you don't want to deal with. So again, radon, soil, we got your back. We'll make sure that you don't have any of these problems when you move to Colorado Springs.
Yep.
All right, we are experts in a lot of different things, but sometimes even we are hard-headed and have to learn things the hard way. So number 7 on our list is not skipping out on the storage space. When we purchased our new build in Banning Lewis Ranch, which if you've seen some of our videos, you've probably heard us talk about it. It's one of their carriage homes. We walked it when it was 2x4s, no drywall. We thought it was amazing. We went under contract, and when we moved in, we found out we had absolutely no storage, no closet space, like nothing. So things that you accumulate as people in general are Halloween decorations and Christmas decorations, and the other things that you accumulate because you live in this amazing city where we have 4 seasons are things like your summer toys and your winter toys. But you can, and just people in general, always have boxes of stuff.
Yes.
If you have a junk drawer, by the way, junk drawers are a thing. I don't know if you know
We're
what it
my
is,
people.
but usually you have it in your kitchen, and it is a drawer that will have random things, chargers, screwdrivers, a deck of cards. If you don't know where it is or what it is, tell us where you're from because I'm curious. But
or you're just like a normal person.
Or junk drawers are a normal thing. So if you don't have one, I think you're abnormal. Tell me where you're from. Tell me if you've heard of it. Tell me if you have one, because we're curious. Junk drawer is just a funny conversation with another story. But skipping out on storage space is something you should not ever do.
Well, and I think storage could look a lot different depending on what you're like, what you do have, right? Because basements normally will have, extra storage.
For sure.
Or a 3-car garage. You may only have 2 cars, so you can use the third bay as storage for your seasonal toys, for your jet ski, or for your motorcycles, or whatever that kind of looks like. And I think it's just one of those things that we don't also look for. I think when we're walking houses,
we do now.
We do,
and we forewarn you.
we ask you, if it, when we look at a linen closet, it's like, would all of your stuff fit in this linen closet? You have no other space to put anything. Do you have a ton of junk? Because let's face it, 9 times out of 10, it is junk. It's not stuff that we absolutely need to have, because otherwise it wouldn't be put in a box, right? So it's just little things like that can definitely be an issue after the fact if you're not paying attention to it before.
Well, and then what will happen too is you buy this house, you're super excited. The markets, we'll just say, different these days. So housing is more expensive. You find out you don't have space for all this stuff. So then what do? You go rent a storage unit, or you rent a garage, or you rent something, and now it's additional cost. And not only that, then you have to drive to that place, which probably isn't conveniently located 3 minutes down the road just because that's your luck. So make sure that when you're shopping for a house, you do spend the extra time to look for storage space. Think about the things that you have. Think about the things that you might have in the future. We just talked about it the other day. We were like, maybe we should get a boat. Just kidding. We don't have a place to store a boat, even though we'd like to. But Perks, her dad has a boat, so we just go out with him. But yeah, storage space is huge. Third car bays or tandem garages are somewhat common here. I don't know if you guys have them. Let us know in the comments below. But that's always a great third space. So basically you have you have 2 cars side by side, and then one goes further back. That's a great place to store stuff. Also, the overhead garage storage things, we just got ours put up a couple weeks ago, and it is a huge space saver. And then for those who don't have basements, that is another area where you can have, sometimes 1,000 square feet of unfinished area, or even if it's finished and you just need somewhere to put your boxes and your decorations, whatever, your gym, like whatever it is, like basements. We just had someone close on a slab because they didn't want a basement. But if you ever have the opportunity to have the extra storage space, that one did have a tandem garage, so that was kind of the perk. But extra storage space is always just something so peaceful to have.
So there are 7? We talked about 7 different things that you should kind of be aware of, know of, that
these are the big mistakes
that people make. And so before you move to Colorado Springs area, or any of the surrounding areas, give us a call first, send us a text, a DM, and we can kind of map out a good roadmap for you on where you're at and where you're wanting to go and what's important to you. And as you know, you can always give us a call at 719-238-1771, or comment below or email us. We're easy to get a hold of.
Yep. Thanks as always for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the things Colorado Springs related. And again, if you have any questions, just comment below. Let us know what you want to see, and we will always see you in the next video.